Isn't it funny how all we want is freedom, but the limitless amount of choice is what's slowly killing us? I am a notorious overthinker. I have spent my entire freaking life overthinking the hell out of every single decision I've ever made. Whether it was a small life decision or a really big life decision, like choosing what college to go to, choosing who I wanted to pursue as a life partner, or choosing my life path, every single decision came with an enormous amount of suffering and spiraling. And in this episode, I want to share a little bit about my journey so you can have some context, but more importantly, show you that not deciding is costing you more than you can possibly imagine. That not choosing is what actually is the problem. And by the end of this video, you will be able to bridge that gap between having that choice paralysis and taking that first step and picking and deciding what you're about to do. Hey, what's up? Welcome to monsoon season. I hope you had an amazing long July 4th holiday weekend. I have a tradition on July 4th weekend. I watch Nicolas Cage films like on a marathon, and it is divine. It's as divine as it sounds. I mean, Nicolas Cage films, like what's more iconic? I watched The Rock, Con Air, and of course Gone in 60 Seconds, and it was just everything. And I love my Nicolas Cage movie marathons. Wherever you are, I hope you had a great weekend and you feel a little bit refreshed and restored. I want to take a second to introduce the podcast. If you're a completely new guest, welcome. It's so good to have you. Monsoon Season is a podcast that really is devoted to culture, consciousness, and creative courage. And everything I do in my body of work is really rooted in this idea that the very vulnerable parts of you, the rainstorms, the monsoons that you've endured in your life, are the fuel and the mechanism in how you transform and how you choose to serve and water the world. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode when I know you can be anywhere else. Take a moment to subscribe to the channel, leave a comment below about something that really resonates with you in this episode. And if you want to go deeper, I share more wisdom, more personal essays, and guided meditations over on Substack. That's like where I hang out most of the time. So if you want to connect, make sure you sign up for my Substack newsletter. I have spent my entire life overthinking the hell out of everything. I have a PhD in rumination, and I'm a Sagittarius sun, so you know that I have a hard time sometimes just committing to one choice because I want to feel it all. I am someone who's an adventurer, right? I am a seeker. I'm always looking for all of the options and trying to weigh out everything. But there's this one piece of literature that I've read from Miss Sylvia Plath that is the metaphorical bitch slap that I have needed my whole life. This prose is the quintessential bitch slap that is needed when I feel myself spiraling in the delusion of too many choices. It's from the Bell Jar, and this quote has single-handedly changed how I move in this world when it comes to making a decision. She writes, "I saw my life branching out before me like the fig tree in the story. From the tip of every branch, like a fat purple fig, a wonderful future beckoned and winked. One fig was a husband and a happy home and children. and another fig was a famous poet, and another fig was a brilliant professor, and another fig was E.G., the amazing editor, and another fig was Europe and Africa and South America, and another fig was Constantine and Socrates, and a pack of other lovers with queer names and offbeat professions, and another fig was an Olympic lady crew champion, and beyond and above these figs were many more figs I couldn't quite make out. I saw myself sitting in the crotch of this fig tree, starving to death, just because I couldn't make up my mind which of the figs I would choose. I wanted each and every one of them, but choosing one meant losing all the rest. And as I sat there, unable to decide, the figs began to wrinkle and go black, and one by one, they plopped to the ground at my feet. Listen, honey child, this quote is everything. This quote is an awakening, someone coming and taking your shoulders and looking you in the eye and shaking you. I was shaken to my soul when I've came across this quote. And as someone who has over-identified as an overthinker, it has really cemented and been this perfect expression of what it feels internally when we're overthinking. If you're an overthinker, you are sitting at this metaphorical fig tree at the bottom of it, and your back's against the trunk, and every single fig is a different opportunity, a different life that you could have. So maybe one fig is choosing a certain lover or life partner, another fig is being a painter, another fig is being a podcaster, another fig is being a singer, another fig is being a race car driver, another fig is writing poetry. It could be whatever, or a carpenter, or being a nurse, or starting your own Etsy shop, whatever the idea. There are so many options, and we live in a world where we're inundated with so many options of what to do. And it's debilitating. It causes so much, for me at least, it causes so much nervous system damage. Like, I feel a lot of the times when I've been in the pit of that feeling of analysis paralysis, that I just can't function. Any small decision becomes overwhelming, and it just becomes like a very unbearable place to be. And I know I've been there so many times. This metaphor truly haunts me, and it's good to be haunted sometimes. And I really have spent some time trying to think about, like, where does this anxiety of making the right decision come from? And I realized that, like, the first thing I ever remember learning as a human being in this lifetime is hearing at school one day that you can be anything you want. Because, like, in elementary school, it was always about, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? You can be anything. And I would always do my book reports on how I was going to be Janet Jackson's backup dancer. And if I could be anything, that's what I would choose. And it was such a funny moment when, it's funny now, but it wasn't funny back then. But when I came home and told my Bangladeshi immigrant parents, guess what I just learned in American public school? I can be anything. And I remember my parents looking at me and saying, yeah, of course you can be anything. Of course you can, as long as it's a doctor. And then just completely being torn to shreds internally as a kid, realizing, wow, okay, there's only one right path in my parents' eyes. And I think as a daughter of immigrants, and a lot of people can relate to this, I bet. I've spent most of my life trying to go against what my parents want, but secretly also wanting to appease them and to make them proud and make sure that their sacrifices were worth it. That I owed them that I owed them just the simple thing of making the right choice, but it is beyond simple. It is very, very hard to make the right decision, or in my case, any decision at all when I was in it. So typically when I'm in a place where I need to make a decision, my habits became very, very clear patterns of spiraling. So if I had to make a decision, I always went the route of investigating and weighing out all my options, and investigating as if I were investigating like a murder or something. Like I would become crazy and like stay up all nights, like making what I can only describe as these like murder boards of all of the different options that I had. So I'd make lists and I would just do endless amounts of research on Google and now ChatGPT and Claude. And I would just also spend hours and hours on YouTube. I would spend hours of YouTube watching other people who had made those decisions and their accounts and their experiences, because I thought, okay, maybe if I research enough about what the human experience is like on the other side, I will be able to kind of like prophesize like how it will work out for me, if it will work out or not. And I can maybe avoid all the mistakes that person made in my journey, and I will be protected and not waste as much time. All to say that I'm wasting all this time by researching, by going down these rabbit holes of analysis. Once you start researching, you're scrolling more and more, and you're saving more and more, and you're copying and pasting the bits and the quotes and trying to like put this murder mystery together of like, what should I be? Like, what should I do? And it just leads you down this path of severe anxiety. And then before you know it, you have this PhD in rumination, and you have absolutely no real life experience on the thing that you're actually curious about. I've truly been this way my entire life, in picking the college and picking the major and picking who should I spend my time with and who were the friends that I could grow with and elevate with. And I spent so much time ruminating on the perfect job out of college and the perfect post-college strategy. And even when it was a job that I knew mentally was just like a lily pad to the next thing, like I ruminated the hell out of those choices. And every single decision about what's next or what do I want to do with my life became this huge tornado of anxiety and suffering. So much so that I eventually got to the point where I was having panic attacks, and I had so much inflammation in my body and was struggling, and still do to this day, with autoimmune issues and chronic illnesses. When I was working in beauty and I was making six figures and I should be happy with everything on the outside, I was still feeling like I wasn't on the right path. And so when I decided in my head that I wanted to pursue entrepreneurship and I left my job, I thought, oh my God, now I have the freedom of time and I could use this time to do whatever I want, and it's going to be so much easier to be an entrepreneur. And then I realized that the pattern of the analysis paralysis came with me. Quitting my job didn't allow me to make a more concrete, assertive decision. It actually hindered me even more because I had less of responsibility, I had less distractions. And so now I had where I only had an hour a day to think about what I really wanted to do with my life, I had the entire day, I had 12 hours every single day to think about it. And it became this obsession that I could not break. When I finally decided I was going to be a beauty brand founder and start an Ayurvedic beauty brand, I was like, okay, great. I now know what I want to do. That analysis paralysis kept coming for me throughout the entire process. When it came to naming the brand, picking colors, picking, what the brand positioning was, who my target audience was, what was the first product I wanted to sell. I just needed to pick one product to start with, and I would go down rabbit holes again and again and again and keep tripping up. And I would pick a name and I would launch with an Instagram with that name, and then the next day I saw someone took the exact same name and launched it and had it trademarked. And so then I went and hired a legal team and spent $3,000 trademarking a new name, just because I was afraid that someone was going to come for my dream, come for the branding or whatever it was. All of these things were just that same disease of choice paralysis coming over and over and over again. And I would just spend all these hours, like 10,000 plus for sure, thousands and thousands of hours, like all these all-nighters, planning the content, planning the launch and the products and the copy that I would write, the ideas that I had and the campaigns and all of the things, the packaging, except actually just deciding and like launching. I was just always struggling with this failure to launch because I always kept thinking I need to make one more decision or one more thing needs to be fixed before I go. But like I mentioned, my body was shutting down. I got to the place where the overwhelm was too much and I couldn't get out of bed. I was depressed. I was lonely. I was confused as fuck. And I was having suicidal ideation and all these thoughts of just like feeling like a loser because I couldn't get just one idea off the ground. I was just spiraling and spiraling and spiraling, but not actually gaining any momentum and not actually doing anything of note and having no client, no customer, no money to speak of, no proof that I was actually doing it. And that was what caused me so much pain and so much suffering and so much misunderstanding in my internal world. At my lowest point, the thing that I kept thinking about was, how is it possible? How is it possible that God has given me gifts in this lifetime and I haven't been able to make use of it? How is it possible that people who are less talented and less capable are doing laps around me? How is it possible that I haven't been able to make something of myself? And in those lowest moments is when I stopped and meditated. I stopped researching. I stopped trying to find the answers all out there and trying to Google the answers to spark something in me and finally figure out what's the missing piece of my business. And then finally it'll be profitable and everything will work out and all of that. And I just sat and I meditated, and I, for the first time in my life, looked at the pain that was there, that I was ignoring over and over again. And I was just like, well, when I'm successful, all of this pain will be worth it. So let's just keep going. Let's just keep white knuckling through this. And when I looked inside, I was like, fuck, there was so much pain. There's so much trauma. There's so much judgment, so much self-animosity inside, so much pressure, so much harshness inside me that kept feeling like I had royally fucked everything up and there was no way I can get back on my feet. So of course, I sit and meditate, and what do I do after? I start rebranding my beauty brand after the meditation. And I'm like, well, maybe if I just rebrand, everything will be fine. I'm just sharing all this to say, the mind is so sneaky. It really, when you've planted so many seeds of, I'm not sure of myself, I'm not sure of myself, I don't trust myself, when you've planted that for 35 years, that is all your mind knows. So even when you have a moment of refuge, like a meditation or a prayer or a Hail Mary, you still are, all those seeds that you've planted of uncertainty will ripen in those moments. So like I got out of the meditation and I started rebranding and I was like, well, I'll do this. Then I decided I'm going to be a meditation teacher. And then my first reason for being a meditation teacher was like, well, if I become a meditation teacher, I will figure out all of the shit that's going on in my head that doesn't make any sense. I'll be able to fix all of my mental health stuff and all my mental woes. And that will help me unlock how to become an entrepreneur and how to make more money and how to be the person that I'm meant to be in this world. And that was my motivation. And then what did I do? I started Googling, meditation programs and spent months and weeks doing that. Eventually, by some miracle, I chose a meditation program and I did the 12-week meditation and I became a meditation teacher. And I was 200 hours certified and no one could tell me shit. I felt like on cloud nine. It was such a grueling experience, both mentally. It took me to the brink of everything. It made the training itself was a mirror for me. And when I looked at myself through this training and I got to the other side, I was like, wow, I can do anything. And I got out of the training and that's exactly what happened again. I started spiraling again and I was feeling lost again because I was like, well, I need to make money being a meditation teacher. How do I do that? Researching that over and over and scrolling and seeing other people, what they were doing, and just becoming obsessed with that decision and how to turn meditation to that the juiciest fig that I had, because I finally decided, right? I picked the fig and I went for it and I did it and I had this certificate. But then after graduation, I felt lost again. And I was like, well, how do I do this? Like, how do I become a meditation teacher and make money doing this in my life? At one point, while I was lost, I saw people coaching and saw people, a lot of people who are meditation teachers coaching. So I was like, oh, I should definitely do that because that seems to make them happy. And I followed that thread. And then I came back to podcasting, and there's so much turmoil that I've endured with making a decision. And there's also a difference between making a decision and standing in a decision, because what would happen is I would pick the meditation teacher fig and I would have one foot in and one foot out. I would be like, okay, I'm going to do this. And then I had my eye on another fig, but I would never bite into the fig and let that fig become me, really stand in it. And that is something that I've only learned to do in this past year, is to learn how to have the ability to stand in the decision, because making the decision in your head is not the same as doing it and really being about it and standing firm in the conviction that comes with it. As someone who has struggled 35 years with making a decision, I just want you to know that a lot of why you are scared to make the decision is because there is this sense that the fig is like the prophecy. It holds your future in its pulp, in its fruit. We think that if I pick the right thing, I will become the person that is worthy of that. And it doesn't work that way. It really doesn't. And what I've learned is that all of these figs are empty. They are empty. We are the ones that are projecting importance onto it. We are the ones that are giving it value and giving it this fantasy. The truth is, you can pick any of these figs. It doesn't matter. You pick the fig that is closest to you, that looks the juiciest to you, and enjoy it. Enjoy it and know that you are already that. You all are already that which is worthy of that future. For me, each fig is a representation of the somebody that I will become, the extraordinary being that I will become. And when I realized that all I really wanted was to be undeniably myself, all you want is to be undeniably yourself. You don't actually want to become somebody. You want to remove those layers of somebody and become who you truly are. And when you realize that, making the decision becomes easy. The most important thing I can say to you is choose the fig and make it right. It is impossible to choose a right fig. The right fig doesn't exist. What does exist, though, is you decide and you make the decision right. When I chose this path of, my path is to express all the vulnerable parts of me so that it enables other people to be vulnerable with themselves and find who they truly are so that they can serve the world. That when I just decided that that is what my path is, and that comes with meditation, that comes with podcasting, and I use these things as vehicles to spread that message, that's when I make it right. I made this decision right. It wasn't there for me to take. Trust whatever you choose is what you need. And more importantly, it's what the world needs. Trust whatever fig that you pluck was made for you, was destined and anointed with your name and your spirit. And trust that there are guides, invisible and visible, forces that you cannot see, that know you better, that trust your ability to make the decision right. The only way you fuck up is if you don't choose. I want to share 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. I want to share 7 practical tips on how to get from that analysis paralysis of making a choice to that first step, taking that first step. Okay, so let's get into it. The first one is get tired of your own BS. Okay, this is essential. Anger is a very, very useful emotion, especially when it comes to making a decision. We don't want to make decisions angry, but it is such important and potent fuel in this. Some people can really will themselves to do something. I'm not one of those people. Like I make decisions a lot of the times from where I am emotionally. And when I got tired, really tired of my bullshit, of the spirals, of the zigzagging and the back and forth, like that was the first step for me, is getting tired and acknowledging that I can no longer do this anymore. That this whole dance of indecisiveness is no longer serving me and is hurting me in more ways than I can count. So slowly, when you run out of the excuses, you have no other choice but to take action at that point. It's like do or die. My dad always used to say that to me as a kid. It's like when he would see me in that kind of spiral, he would just be like, do it or die. Anger is useful. And something I really want to share is that I don't see this as a negative thing. Getting tired of your bullshit is not a negative thing. I actually see getting tired as a micro awakening. So when you're tired of something, there's a vitality and a brightness that happens right at the end of it. I don't know if you're catching exactly what I'm saying. I hope this is registering and making sense. But when we're really, really tired, just think about when you're like feeling really sleepy and you're like, I need to go to bed. There is this like moment that it's like a nanosecond of just like, I'm so tired, and then you're like awake and you're your consciousness is like, I need to do something about it. And it always happens to me when I'm staying up late and I'm scrolling or watching too much TV, and I'm like, oh, okay. I'm just taking it in. And then there's a moment where I'm just like, all right, girl, now it's time to get your ass up and go get washed up, brush your teeth, go to bed. That's a micro awakening. So when we see that getting tired of our BS is a micro awakening, it holds a different kind of weight to it. So that's the first step. The second practical step is practice being decisive. Notice how I did not say practice being more decisive. I said practice being decisive, embodying someone who is very assertive and decisive about their decisions. And I truly, truly believe one of my core truths and understandings in this world is how we do one thing is how we do everything. And this is no different. So when you are watching YouTube or Netflix and you are usually spending 45 minutes, an hour deciding what to watch or making playlists of things, and then you're like, oh, I'll circle back and then I'll decide on what I really want to watch. And then you end up watching, like spending that precious time just figuring out what to watch. Use the small moments in life to help you become stronger, and use those small moments to give you the reps that is needed to make those harder, bigger lift decisions later on in the future. So you can use simple things of like choosing when you're at a restaurant, choosing what dish you want, and being also very expressive about it. So like if you're going out to a restaurant with people and you're like, oh, well, what are you getting? I still do that all the time. What are you getting? No. You're looking at the menu and you're just picking one thing. You're like, I'm going to have the chicken waffles, period. Not, oh, I'm struggling between 3 choices. What are you guys getting? Because then maybe we can split it. And then you get into that muddy territory. We are just deciding. We are having the chicken and waffles and we are moving the F on. Those are the moments that matter. And it seems that they're not related, but trust me, they are. Decide what you're going to have like at the restaurant. Decide what you're going to watch without going down the rabbit hole of choice. Decide in every single choice in your day, like what to wear. Don't go into your closet and try on a bunch of things. Just go in and say, whatever I choose is going to be amazing and look great on me, and just pick and go about your day. So those are the ways we build that muscle of decisiveness. Document yourself talking to your future self. This is so important. Self-expression and getting the jumbled, ruminating thoughts out of the mind and out of this container into the world is very useful. And I think more than writing, more than, talking to a friend over coffee or anything like that, more than any of those things, pressing the red button on your camera and recording yourself talking out loud to your future self will change everything. Because when you watch it back, you're automatically creating this distance between your thoughts, the thoughts themselves, and the thinker, you, right? So you're creating distance between you and those thoughts. And when we watch ourselves, and we watch ourselves specifically in video, it is so telling and so crazy how much information we can get just by watching our mannerisms, our behavior, our body language, how we're responding to the things. And you'll notice automatically so many things that you didn't know just because it was trapped all inside and you were looking at it through kind of a very like foggy mirror. And being able to record yourself talking to your future self and just brain dumping all of this stuff that's been in your head will not only create a spaciousness inside of you, but is a really beautiful practice of unconditional love, because it takes a lot of love to look at yourself in a video and just watch yourself. Like, it's very, very vulnerable. I know I do this. I've done this most of my life, recorded myself and watched it, and podcasting is a huge part of that. But that's what I did when I was at my lowest. The first thing I did to get out of my hole of analysis paralysis was record myself. And I started this podcast like that. That was the inception of this podcast. I would go into my closet and record this podcast, and I would just talk to myself, talk to my future self, and tell my future self all the things I was struggling with. And I put those episodes out into the world, and eventually this became that. And there's so much clarity we get when we get to see ourselves from a different vantage point. And I really, really recommend you do not skip this step. Audit your choices for the anomaly. Something you should ask yourself in this step is, are all of the choices that I'm trying to pick between, are they really different, or are they all flavors of the same thing? Because if that is the case, then it's more about taking all of those different, like those slightly different flavors, and collapsing it into one. That is an easier task, right? But what I also want to share is, maybe a lot of people might think it is an obvious decision to look at all your choices and kind of pick the common thread that runs through everything. But I would actually go against that and say, audit all the choices and choose the anomaly. Choose the thing that is like an anomaly. Oh my God, I can't say that word. An anomaly is something that stands out from the expected pattern, right? So it's like the glitch in the matrix. And so much of how we're programmed in our society, in our culture, is to ignore the anomaly, to ignore the glitch, right? Because we're in the matrix. But I say, so how that looks is like you're looking for the commonality of all your choices. I would actually say go against that. Like, audit and find the glitch, find the anomaly, and choose that, because that's the thing that you're actually really scared of. That's the thing that you actually really want to do. And all of the other choices are there more as safety nets. So for me, for example, when I was trying to choose, like, how do I want to create and all this stuff, the podcast was the thing I was most afraid of. And the podcast was an outlier. It was an anomaly in my audit of all my choices. It was like, well, I don't know why I want to do that. That seems a little far-fetched, or my brain would automatically make a lot of excuses around the podcast fig. It was always like, oh, well, there's tons of self-help or personal development podcasts out there that are way bigger. Like, that is just climbing an uphill battle. But that's the very thing. When I asked myself what I actually wanted to do, if I could just pick one, it was that. It was the anomaly. Fuck me. It was the anomaly that I truly wanted. And so the anomaly is actually the hidden fig, the hidden diamond in all the figs, right? It's the thing that you really, really want, that you're scared to want. Gather your resources. Everyone has resources. I have spent a lot of that suffering in indecision, tricking myself into thinking that a lot of the reason why I was having a hard time deciding was because I didn't have enough money, or I didn't have enough resources. I didn't have a graphic designer. If I had a graphic designer, then all of the colors and the fonts, that would be so much easier. And the editing would, if I had an editor, then that would be so much easier. And like, all of it always came down for me personally to financial resources and being stuck in that poor kid scarcity mindset constantly. Okay, so I kept tricking my brain into thinking that I had limited, very, very limited resources, and that seeped into how I showed up into making decisions and deciding on my fig. But the truth is, we all have resources, but we don't give enough awareness to those resources. But I want you to put awareness in your resources, because we all have them. And I'll name a couple of mine if it gives you a little bit more clarity on ideas of what resources can look like. So for me, a huge resource is unconditional love, like having unconditional love from a partner and family and like my closest friends, like really truly like hold me down and they believe in me and my light. That is a huge resource that I underappreciated. I've always appreciated it, but like in terms of thinking about decisions, I didn't realize that having people in your corner who love you is like, I'm a billionaire, I'm a trillionaire when it comes to that. Another resource is my struggles, like the things I've overcome in my life is a huge resource, and we undervalue that as well. The things that I've been through, the mental health challenges, the dad abandoning me, and whatever it is, right? Like all of these things also are the things that give me power, and I've been able to harness in how I help and how I show up for people. And that ties into my other resource, which is empathy. I have insane amount of empathy, and I assume that that is not a resource, but it is, because this world needs empathy, and making decisions, you need to have empathy for yourself and empathy for the, like, all of the things that come with making a decision. Another resource is my branding experience, and I've spent 15 years in beauty brands building brand voice and brand story for some of the most disruptive brands in the entire world. That is a huge, huge resource that I did not tap into enough. Another thing, my first year in that industry was just answering customer service questions and inquiries and answering thousands upon thousands of DMs and comments on social media for customers of these brands like Glossier and Kosas and Pharmacy. And like I was answering in the DMs with people answering comments, and I was like, well, I can't wait to stop doing this and like make more money and get promoted. That is a resource. I know how to engage with community. I know how to communicate with people and to connect with people in the comments and make it meaningful. Like there are so many people out there who are creating and entrepreneurs who are, it's like, it's all self-service. They're not spending enough time building that community and help like engaging with people. They're all like, hey, like and subscribe, but they're not actually taking the time to really care and invest in people and engage with them in a meaningful way. And that comes from my experience doing customer service and putting other people's needs ahead of mine. So that is a huge resource. I'm just giving you a bunch of ideas, right? Like writing. As a teenager, I wrote plays and one-woman shows, and I studied theater, and so that really helped me with understanding character, understanding story, understanding the hero's journey, how I show up, and stage presence. Like these are all things I used to put in the back seat, and now I'm just like owning, and I'm like, this is better and more valuable than having $1 million in my bank account. And so gather your resources and truly leverage them, like use them in how you show up in making the decision. Remove importance of the outcomes. This is so, so critical. And this is something that directly comes from Tibetan Buddhist lineage and meditation practice, especially, is we have to remove the importance of the results and the outcomes. If we are gripping on to an outcome, which is really what causes us the most amount of strife in choosing our fig, that like our intention is completely off. We're already starting on the wrong foot. The choice doesn't matter as much as you think. I promise you, it feels like life or death. Like when I was choosing between bottles that I would use for body oil from building my beauty brand, I would feel like choosing the right bottle was life or death, but it is not important. that might seem like a small thing, but again, how you do one thing is how you do everything. When I was deciding, like, I was really struggling deciding on if I wanted the podcast to be primarily on YouTube or primarily on Substack, I kept flipping back and forth. And I even at the time was working with a coach and spent one of our meetings asking him, please help me decide, like, how do I pick the right platform, YouTube or Substack? YouTube or Substack, like, can we do a pros con list? Can we figure out like what would be the right platform? And he simply said, Aisha, it doesn't matter. You can succeed on YouTube, you can succeed on Substack, you can fail on YouTube, you can fail on Substack. It's true, like, it doesn't matter. And in that moment, I just decided I'm going to just choose YouTube and I'm just going to go for it. And literally a few weeks later, that was when the first time I ever had a viral video. And I've been doing YouTube for 10 plus years. But it was just in the energy of making a decision. I released the importance of it, and that's when the results ironically tend to want to show up, is when you just don't have any grip on them. The last and final step is pick your fig and give yourself 6 months to experiment. Like I just said in the last step before this, there is no importance in the choice that you make. You think there is importance, and your mind is playing this game with you and projecting importance. Every fig is so important. Every fig is another perfect future and a this and a that. Pick the fig. It don't matter. Pick the fig using all of these steps. You come here, you pick the fig, and then you stick to it for a minimum of 6 months. Hopefully you pick it for a long time and you go further than that. For me, it's definitely been more than 6 months, but just giving myself, I feel like 6 months is such a sweet spot for me, and just like being like, okay, if I give it my all for 6 months, that's a good, honest try. And then what you realize is within those 6 months of experimenting, you are going to get so much more actual real data, not the made up conceptual data that your overthinking brain is doing, but actual data from acting and being out there in the world. And you're receiving this like really juicy, beautiful data that will help you on your next step and on your next phase. But it has to be at least a certain small amount of time that you commit, because if you're just like changing your fig every week or every other week, it's just not, of course you're going to fail. You're not actually standing in that decision like I had mentioned earlier. So those are the 7 steps that I really recommend if you are an overthinker struggling with making a decision. I really want you to understand that I'm speaking from my own truth. You can also just decide right here and now that you're just going to pick and go, and that also works. You can take the shortcut, and that is perfectly all right. And I celebrate you for that. But if you need those steps, they're there to help you. I fumble for a living. And I want you to know that this whole life is practice. We put so much weight and pressure on ourselves to get it right because we have this notion that if we choose right, then all the things after that decision, all the things on the other side of that decision will be right for us and will make things and life easier for us. But like I've learned with meditation training and with my life as my greatest experiment and my greatest lesson, nothing outside is going to fix what's happening on the inside, right? Know that this entire life that we have, however long, however short, we don't know when it's up. This lifetime is practice. We get to practice. There is nowhere to end up. There is nowhere to there's nothing to achieve or nothing to get to. We're just practicing. And when we take the pressure off and we realize that we're practicing out loud, and that takes boldness, that takes courage, that takes vulnerability, that is what it's all about. There is no outcome. There is no thing that you need to get right. All you need to do is just pick the fig and bite into that fig. Let that juice drip all over your arms and elbows, onto your clothes. Like, enjoy it, because this is the ride. Like, this is what we signed up for, is practicing and practicing our truest self as much as we can. And that's it. That's all that matters. And if you can do that, then the next decision will be made easier and easier and easier. Thank you so much for listening. I know this was a long one, but I really enjoyed sharing my story with you. And if you feel stuck at any point in the journey, I've got you. I'm always here for you. Just reach out and I will answer the call.